What is up, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got yet another new artist for this channel, and Zoe, or is it Zoe? I don't know how to pronounce it. Zoe?
Well, so I'm gonna say Zoe just because it's a Mexican artist, Labios,Rotos, but
is the song, yeah.
Our friends will tell us if we're mispronouncing it. Here in America, we would usually call it Zoe. But with the accent over the E, Zoe is how I'm assuming it is. Labios,Rotos, if I'm not mistaken, that means broken lips.
Broken lips.
My Spanish-speaking friends, please
Rotos
correct
is
me
lips?
if I'm wrong. I know enough to be dangerous. Labios, lips, rotos, broken. So,
oh, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but WSM777, thank
Shout
you
out.
again.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your support of the channel. Means everything.
And the note was pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, like they were saying that this was, everybody says that Nirvana's Unplugged is like the best ever, and they were just saying that this might outshine that. And the only reason people say November Nirvana is because they don't know this one.
Oh, okay, that's a hefty statement.
Yeah, and they've won Grammys, they've won Latin Grammys, so I can't wait to check this out. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome.
Oh, and it actually is an Unplugged.
It's an Unplugged,
cool.
yeah. Can't wait to check it out. We're gonna get into it, but before we do, y'all know what's up. Do all those things. If you have not yet subscribed, really appreciate it if you hit that button.
Thanks, friends.
And it's free. Now, let's get into this. LabiosRotos. Let me get my broken lips. Crazy.
I think so.
Oh.
Wow, look at this setup.
I was about to say, the xylophone sounds great. I don't know if that's an actual xylophone.
Wait, what song is this?
Labios.
This sounds familiar.
Rotos. It's beautiful. Ooh. Oh. Goosebumps.
Entrégame tus labios rotos, los quiero besar, los quiero curar, los voy a cuidar con todo mi amor.
Pretty.
Es raro el amor.
Whoa, big change.
Es raro el amor que se te aparece cuando menos piensas. Es raro el amor.
The strings.
Es raro el amor. No importa la distancia, el tiempo ni la edad.
Wow.
Wow. Is that a horn? Yep. That bump, bump. It's such a short.
Moja el desierto de mi alma con tu mirar, con tu tierna voz.
This is beautifully mixed.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good.
Por la eternidad. Y entrégame esos labios rotos. Los quiero besar, los quiero curar. Los voy a cuidar con todo mi amor. Es raro el amor. Es raro el amor.
What is that, a marimba? Xylophone? Whatever that is, glockenspiel?
Es raro el amor.
Sounds awesome.
Es raro el amor.
Vibraphone?
No importa la distancia, el tiempo ni la edad.
mix this. This sounds great.
Wow.
Man, I could keep, is this over? Is it? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was so fast.
Man, I could totally do more of that. That sounded...
That just flew by.
Ha llegado el momento de presentarles a uno de nuestros invitados de lujo.
Yo no sé.
Wow, guys.
WSM.
777.
Yo.
Thank you.
That was absolutely... Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about... I don't know if y'all can see it, but that was beautiful.
Can we talk about your comments about how it was mixed perfectly first before I forget?
Well, yeah, what about it?
So what made you say that? Like, was it that you heard the vocals so crisp clear, or that everything was at such a level that you thought it matched perfectly together?
Like, it just... The stereo image was beautiful. Like, you heard things spread out wide. Nothing seemed to be fighting each other. Like, everything just played well in the frequency spectrum, you know? Like, it just sounded good. It sounded clean. That I don't know my mallet instruments, you know, if that's a marimba or vibraphone or xylophone. I don't know what it is, glockenspiel, all those things. Whatever that was, that started the song, if I remember correctly, and it was just beautiful. It just sets the tone of this calming, beautiful sound. And then everything else just filled in. It sounded beautiful.
The mixing comment's really important because of the sheer number of instruments there, guys. Like, that was a feat.
Yeah.
To make that sound so good.
Absolutely. And when you have certain instruments, like a guitar playing in the same frequency spectrum as a different guitar or whatever, the mallet or whatever, if they're hitting those same frequencies, you can really get muddy. So to be able to pan them around the stereo image to where they're not stepping on each other or ducking certain sounds when another one comes in. I don't know, whoever mixed this, it sounded absolutely beautiful. Like, the stereo image, I love that. I'm big on wide spaces and hearing things across the spectrum. It sounded great.
So for dummies like me, if you were sitting in the audience there, would you hear the same thing we just heard, or is the mixing happening post-production?
Yeah, it's definitely happening post.
Okay.
Because if you're in the audience...
So let me just finish the thought real quick. Because at first you're like, well, how possibly could... One way to think of it was like, how possibly could it sound the same? And here's how I was thinking, like, maybe when they go in and they did the rehearsal, they're like, oh, okay, we need to have it tuned this specific way. And it then was played that way and everybody heard it the same way we did. Or what you are saying, no, they would have done that after the fact. So you don't know, it wouldn't have sounded the same in the audience is the ultimate point.
Well, no, so...
I'm not saying the right words.
Right. That's what I'm saying. About. Like, that's, so when you're looking at a live feed or when you're at a live show, right? The person who's mixing front of house and is using the PA, you're not gonna hear the same things that we're hearing in post.
Yeah.
At all. Like, it's not gonna be the same. Now, there might be some similarities, but you're not gonna get that fine-tuned thing. You know, people that are mixing in post typically have different kinds of ears than somebody that's mixing live front of house. At least in my experience that I've found. And that's why they have two different jobs. There's always the front of house engineer that usually travels with bands and mixes that way, and they know that. But in post, it's a whole different beast. So
I bet it still sounded great.
Oh, like, I'm sure it sounded
sitting there
great.
live in the audience, not just the what you were hearing, but the whole vibe of it. And that's how those MTV Unplugged are so great that way. It's been a long time since I've heard or seen one of them like that. And this kind of just instantly reminded me why I love them so much, because they're just humble.
They're amazing.
Right? They're amazing.
I got to do one. I was an engineer on one MTV Unplugged, actually, and it was Miley Cyrus. and it was really cool because Madonna came out. So
cool.
It was cool to get the behind the scenes to see that, like, be there and putting these mics up and getting the sound. So it definitely sounds different in the live setting than it does in the audio truck that's recording this and the mixer.
That's pretty cool. Like, for the MTV Unplugged that you did, you had like, I guess my point is, like, the number of inputs was probably a lot more significant on this performance because of the amount of instruments. Of course, I didn't see the Miley Cyrus one, so I don't know what her setup was.
Miley had, I mean, this was probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I want to say Miley probably had around 80 inputs total.
Boy, I wonder if that's the case. I wonder how many for
But it's not all at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, you might have 80 or 90 inputs total, but for this song, you're probably only using like 25. And then for the next song, you might be using 40, you know, or if you have a guest come on with a guitar, like Madonna came on and played. So now you've got an extra mic and an extra guitar or whatever. So it's always changing, but I think the total was somewhere around like 80 or 90 inputs, like all the tracks, all the background vocals, everything. So it's a lot.
Yeah, sounds like it. It was beautiful though. And it was beautiful to hear his voice. It was my first time hearing both of us, first time hearing this. And I just really appreciated hearing something different than what we're used to. And it's not something that typically we would go listen to. So it's a bit of a treat for us to appreciate the musicianship of a song that we don't know and just the entire vibe. It was fun. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know I mentioned that arguably people think the Nirvana is like the best Unplugged. Personally, I'm going with Alice in Chains because that just vibe with me. That might be my favorite Unplugged ever. But my God, was this just beautiful.
Yeah, everybody, it's like everybody has their own favorite.
Oh yeah, plus I never cared about Nirvana so much.
It's like, great, if you love this one, awesome.
Right.
If you love Alice in Chains,
exactly,
great.
Exactly.
You know, like, I'm just grateful for this live performance, honestly.
This was so good.
It's just it's different than a stage performance in so many different ways. The intimacy there is just, it's something that you can't replicate on a big
You mean
stage.
An Unplugged versus like
Unplugged,
a full, okay, yeah.
Sorry if I wasn't clear.
No, okay.
Unplugged versus just a
normal
typical normal live performance. The intimacy and the vibe that creates just makes it so much more meaningful, at least personally, to watch.
And changing the song to fit an acoustic performance versus, you know, like something that you wrote.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
what this sounds like now.
Alice in Chains' stuff was grungy and hard rock, and then all of a sudden you strip it down and it's all acoustic.
Yeah.
And it just gives everything such a cool vibe. So I thought this was great.
It was, before I forget, at first, when the music first started playing, I thought that they were doing somebody else's song. And what I mean specifically was, you know, some little piece of a song that exists already going into this one.
Familiar.
And I don't know what it is yet, guys, but those first few notes was like, whoa, I know this. What is this? But I don't. It was just completely coincidental, I think. It just sounded familiar to me and then went into its own beautiful own thing. It was just really a treat.
It was gorgeous. So shout out to you, WSM
Once again, thank you.
Really appreciated. This was gorgeous. Just gorgeous. So
Great
if you guys
choice.
like this, make sure y'all hit all those buttons. If you're not yet subscribed, hit that button. Really means everything to us. And we'll see you guys soon, my friends. Peace.